Good evening. What's happening? How's everybody today? There's a noise in the background. It's a funeral which lasts a week, so I get to hear that music. Luckily this time it's not loud. It's bearable. I don't want to be rude or anything, but I tell you something. When you listen to it closely, I can't play a saxophone, but I think I could play better music than that's in that music. And it's not by a band either. The flute, whatever instrument, I'm like, how is that even music? But you have to respect it's a funeral. Somebody passed the other day on the other side of the river. There's like 3 villages, one behind me and left and right along one road, and then across the street from that is a field that goes on for about 10 kilometers wide and, you know, off into the distance, that floods in the rainy season, which we haven't had no floods yet because there's not enough rain yet. So what have I been doing today? Well, yesterday I went and got a haircut. Handsome again? I know I need a shave. So I did that yesterday, got a haircut, and then today I went shopping and went to Macro, got some Lancashire sausages, some Angus hamburgers. They're expensive, but I don't care. They're really tasty. So I got them. What else I get? Some chicken sausages. Sorry, not sausages, chicken patties, which I like for breakfast. Fry that up with an egg on some bread. That's usually my breakfast. I don't like eating in the mornings, so I figured at least I'm eating something. So I have an egg, chicken patty burger on some bread with some, usually just butter or plain. Sometimes I'll get excited and put lettuce on it. That's my breakfast. Not the healthiest, but it's lots of protein, so I'm happy with that. I got a couple of stories for you. First one made me laugh. Jan told me about it, and it's the young guy who lives down the road. You've seen him before, but I'm not going to mention his name. But he lives down the road, and how can I say this politely? You know, his dad works in Bangkok, so he doesn't have his dad around every day. He only sees him 1 day a week. So he hangs out with his mom and grandmom. And I want to say this politely in case he listens to it. Like a wet rag. I'm like, dude, stand up. Get enthused about something. He's 15 years old. And he joined the Army Cadets. And if you join the Army Cadets and you do 3 years of that, so it works out about 3 months actually full time. But you think, sorry about the noise, the scooter boys. So if you think how much they do 1 afternoon a week for 3 years, less school holidays and so on. It's actually, so they do that instead of having to go to national service. But you have to be pretty fit to get into it. So I don't know how he got in, but he got in. Press ups, sit ups, running, you know, all that sort of stuff, and he got in. So he had his first day today, and the army guys actually addressed them for the first time, and they set into him just like, you know, a good, you know, like a soldier would in recruits, right? So he said they shouted at us and they used bad language. I creased myself when I heard that. I was like, dude, I did a few years, 22 years in the green clothes. Shout. In the end, you hear people shouting, and you just go, they're just talking. It's like normal. And now, you know, there's so many different combinations of swear words and derogatory terms. I've become like a black belt, 5th Dan PhD in derogatory terms. All the things I heard in my day. You know, I got to the dizzy heights of Sergeant Major, but I wasn't a Sergeant Major with recruits or with guys. I was in training. I worked in a school, technical. So it's so funny to hear him. They swore us. I cracked up. About 5 times this afternoon I kept thinking about that, and I just kept cracking up. It's so funny. I was like, dude, you're like a wet rag. Shut up. Get your shoulders back and get busy. So, I mean, they do 3 years, and it works out to be like 3 months training. But they don't do any, well, they do a couple overnight things. So, you know, you're thinking about it. They're going to spend the first year just shouting at them, making them jump, run, do things like that, get them fit. And the second year, they're going to probably start showing them, you know, marching and basic first aid and all that sort of stuff. And then in the last year, firearms and, you know, small arms and marching and bringing it together for the last year. But it's but the thing is, he doesn't have to go into national service. And you know, I've seen some videos of people doing basic training here. It's a lot different. I mean, people in England, you know, when I was young, you'd get hit, and not always, but you know, they might crack your legs or something if you don't march properly and things like that. And then about halfway through, it's like, don't you dare hit anybody. Don't swear at them or anything. In the Thai army, you know, they'll beat the crap out of you if you don't behave. So I was like, it's a good job he's doing cadets, because I don't think he'd last very long in the regular. You know, apparently they do like a week exercise, and they spend most of their time wet, and you know, I won't say wet and cold, I just say wet and sweaty, right? But I remember one time I was on an exercise for a week in sub-zero conditions on foot, and like a meter of snow, and the first time we went out just for a couple days, and I thought I'll take 2 pairs of boots, that way if one gets wet. Well, it got wet, but there's no way it's going to dry out. It just turned to like a block of ice. It just froze up and stayed frozen for the whole time I was out. So when I went out for the long one, what I did is, because back then we had terrible boots, I covered them in engine oil, beeswax and engine oil. Put engine oil all over them on the outside. I mean, there's other things like, back then there wasn't anything else to use, but now there's all kinds of waterproofing stuff. But I used engine oil and covered it in beeswax, and then put a little tiny shine on it for when we went out. But for like 4 days my feet stayed dry, and it was in the last couple days where the ice actually ate the front of the boot off, so that the water could get in. So I only had like 36 hours of wet feet instead of the whole week. Well, they finally finished that house. The house is looking really nice from outside. I left it a few days until the guys actually left. Somebody's been in and started cleaning the property up a little bit, got all the excess building materials off the floor. And they're starting to put a bit of a fence around the backside. So I guess they'll close that in and section it off from the rice field. But somebody complained they haven't seen the drone for a few days. So fasten your seatbelt, here we go. So if you look closely, when the drone was around the back of the house, they've actually got AC in there now. Because it's, remember I showed you inside, it's 2 bedrooms, and they have already poured the concrete underneath. So somebody will come in at some point, I guess, and build a brick wall, and then they'll make their little kitchen underneath. But if it's only a weekend place, they might even not do that. They you know, they can go to the village and get all their food they want. You know, you can buy all kinds of different things. Noodle this, noodle that, rice this, curry that. There's actually a restaurant in there. You can sit inside, which I didn't know, that sells phenomenally cooked food. You know, Nam Pik Pao I always get from that place, and it's probably the best I've ever tasted. They're really tasty food. And there's another place in the village that sells that Isan catfish, whatever it is. A little bit spicy, but really tasty. So they won't have to worry about food. You know, maybe put a fridge upstairs for some cool drinks or something. But so that's the $12,000 house finished. And now they just tidy up the garden, I guess, and do a little bit of landscaping and start pottering about. Well, before I get darked out altogether, I think I'm going to sign off and say good night, guys. Look after yourselves. Buckets of blessings. Rivers of peace, joy, and kindness. All the very best.